What's going on, guys? It's your boy Ty, and today in this video we have a pretty simple concept. I'm just going to be recommending you guys some movies. I was scrolling through my letterbox looking at movies I've watched maybe over the past year or so, and I wanted to pick out some films that I feel like are underappreciated or that I really enjoyed that I think you should check out as well. You've probably heard of some of these, don't get me wrong. I'm not making it like they're really like super underrated, but also I think there are a couple of gems on this list. I've got 8 movies that I want to go over, so let's just go right into it. Just so you guys know, there isn't like a set order to these movies. I'm just going in like random order. Like I said, it's 8 films, and on top of that, hopefully if you have one of these on your watch list, I hope that this video will be the thing that finally like pushes you to actually go out of your way to like sit down and just watch the movie and enjoy it, because I feel like that sometimes happens with me where like there's a movie I'm just like dying to watch, but for some reason it just takes me like 8 months to actually watch it, because there's always something that is either coming up, a new movie releasing, or something else that just piques my interest. So yeah, like I said, hopefully my talking points here will actually be the thing to push you to watch these movies, because they're really good, and I feel like some of them are pretty underrated. All right, the first movie I want to go over here, it's actually kind of funny because this is a top 5 favorite movie of mine ever, and I feel like no one's ever watched it or heard of it, that being The Way Back. This movie came out about 10 years ago. It is an absolute stacked cast with Toni Collette, Steve Carell, Sam Rockwell, Maya Rudolph, and there's also some like other smaller roles where you maybe just like notice some people. There's Rowley from Diary of a Wimpy Kid, like the child actor, he's in here. But basically it's just like this really heartwarming but real summer story. When I say real, I mean it's just very raw. It has its high points where you're really happy, but it also has some low points where it does go into some touchy, serious subject matter about divorce and, you know, relationships and, you know, being depressed, loneliness, things like that. I just love the way that it feels so authentic. A lot of the dialogue, even though it's supposed to kind of be like a funny, witty movie, it gets a little bit, I don't even want to say raunchy, because, you know, it's not like it's rated R or anything, but they say some pretty bold things, and it's like, whoa, like, this almost doesn't really feel like a kid's movie. It is rated PG-13, but I've got to say, I just really relate to this movie. Our main character here, he's just kind of like this awkward teenager, and I mean, you know, I'm 21 now, but I could definitely relate to that back when I was like 13 or 14, which is the age of our character. But yeah, I'm telling you, the relationship between our main character and Sam Rockwell's character, it's beautiful. I'm probably going to make a video analyzing this movie one day, because trust me, it is amazing. I really don't want to get too much into the plot, because I've got to say, after like the first act and things really start kicking off, God, it's just so amusing and charming, and there's so many things going on. It just feels like you're on vacation watching this movie, and it feels so real, like I said. All right, my second recommendation here is gonna be Oldboy. Listen, I'm not saying this movie's like underrated. I'm not trying to make it like it's some gem, because I'm very aware it's popular, but at the same time, I feel like there's a good chance a lot of people haven't seen this movie because it's not an American movie. It's a Korean film. I've got to say, this is the second best movie I have ever seen in my life. Is it one of my favorites? Maybe with more rewatches it could be, but I'm just saying how good it is. Yes, it is literally the second best movie I've ever seen. The thing about this movie is that I don't really have much to say, because I don't even want to give the plot away to you guys. This is one that's really good to go into just completely blind. But if I could give you a little bit of like an idea of what this movie's about, it's basically like Seven mixed with John Wick 4 mixed with Prisoners. 3 excellent movies, and I know that's a little bit weird, but I'm telling you, if you watch it, you'll see what I mean. It has twists and turns beyond comprehension. It has awesome action, great character work, and amazing villain. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. If I had to put my life on you thinking one movie on this list was absolutely incredible, it would be this movie. I highly recommend it. Please go watch this movie. And also, it just re-released back in the theaters. I mean, I saw it maybe like 9 months ago or so for the first time, maybe a year ago. The third movie I want to recommend to you guys today, I would say is more interesting than actually like a masterpiece, but don't get me wrong, it's a very enjoyable film, that being Bottle Rocket. See, the thing with this movie is, the reason I say it's interesting is because it's actually Wes Anderson's first film. I think a lot of people know that. I don't think this is like some super underrated gem, but at the same time, I think it's really enjoyable, and it's really cool to watch this movie and see how he evolved. I actually think the story in this movie is very unique. It's basically about these like bandit slash robbers that like think they're really clever, but they're not, and everyone pretty much just like thinks they're idiots. I've never really seen that before in a movie, and I thought it was executed pretty well. There's definitely some charming performances. We've got Owen Wilson in this. We've got some other characters that obviously these actors are in, you know, multiple Wes Anderson films because he uses like the same actors, but it does have like a slight Wes Anderson, you know, style to it. But at the same time, it's weird because it's pretty clear that he didn't want to push it too far, but just with some of the shots, like, you see his style. But basically what I'm trying to say is this is like the most normal Wes Anderson movie, if that makes sense. The next movie I want to recommend is actually a Disney movie that you might not have heard of, that being Heavyweights. This movie is about like a bunch of kids that are just basically at like fat camp over the course of a summer, and it's just really charming and funny. And I've got to say, for a Disney movie, it does push some limits. Ben Stiller's in this, just absolutely doing his thing. He plays like this wacky guy. If you've seen Dodgeball, he kind of just plays the same character, but just in this movie. So if you want to just see more of that crazy energy from Ben Stiller, you'll get it in this. I really like all the child actors. I don't really know any of them by like name or anything. None of them, I don't think, ever really turned into big actors. I might be wrong. But yeah, there's some like really heartwarming moments in this movie. There's a lot of fun to be had. And again, this is a really good time to watch it as summer's coming to a close because, you know, why not watch a little summer camp movie, get a little bit of that nostalgic feeling of just being a kid again, you know? I'll be the first one to admit, movie number 5 that I'm about to recommend is a bit of a weird recommendation just because it's August right now and this is a holiday movie, but that's going to be Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Guys, if you have one movie that you need to put on your watch list for like October or November or December, it needs to be this movie. We've got John Candy and Steve Martin being the most funny people that they absolutely can be. There's a lot of heart to this movie at its core. There's a lot of really nice messages about family, and I've got to say, this is basically like an adventure movie disguised as a comedy because there's just so much constantly going on, not to the point where it gets confusing, but just to where it's so much fun. There's so much fun to be had with this movie. I've got to say, in my opinion, this is literally the best holiday movie. Technically, it's a Thanksgiving movie, by the way, in case I didn't make that clear. It's not like Christmas or Halloween, but I could pretty much watch this movie at any time of the year because it's just so great watching these hysterical performances. I've got to say one more thing about this movie too. So this movie is actually rated R because of one scene where Steve Martin just says the F word like 50 times within like probably 30 seconds, and it's literally the funniest scene in this movie, and it'll have you dying. I promise you, you'll love this movie. Like I said, so much fun to be had with it. Also, rest in peace, John Candy. But yeah, it's really a great movie. With this next recommendation, we're coming back to a more modern time. And I've got to say, I'm cheating here because I'm actually recommending a trilogy, but I'm counting them just as one movie. That being the Maze Runner trilogy. Listen, I know that a lot of people do enjoy the first movie, but also I know a lot of people are turned off by the fact that it's like a teenager, you know, early 2010s, like Hunger Games style, based off those like teen novels type of movie. I've got to say, for a sci-fi trilogy, these are really good movies. You've got some great characters in here. You've got Dylan O'Brien, Giancarlo Esposito's in this, a bunch of really cool actors. Also the kid with the eyebrows, blanking on his name right now, who's in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. He's also in this. But yeah, all the characters, it's almost like an ensemble cast where, yeah, you're not necessarily connected directly to like one character or another one, but when all of them are together as a family, you really want them to try to survive because, listen, I could try to explain the plot of these movies, but it can feel like it gets very complex, especially that this is probably targeted at like 12-year-olds. But I've got to say, if you're a lover of sci-fi, there's some really great visual effects in here, really emotional moments, especially in like the third movie with our conclusion, which I think is actually the best movie, even though a lot of people didn't like for some reason. I promise you, if you're just looking to watch a new trilogy, maybe just spend a week getting like invested in a new franchise, I really recommend this one because there's a lot of fun to be had with this. All right, so if you're a fan of Spider-Man, specifically Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, I've got to say, this next movie you need to watch right now. Before I reveal the title, I watched this movie like the first few days of July, and even though it's 2 months later at the time I'm recording this, it still is stuck in my head and I'm still just thinking about it. And a movie that leaves you thinking for 2 months is one that I 100% need to recommend, that being Under the Silver Lake. I'm sure that some of you have heard of this movie. It's not really the most popular movie, but I feel like besides Andrew Garfield's like Spider-Man movies, he hasn't been in like too many popular films. But I've got to say, this is such a cool like neo-noir mystery thriller. There's some slight horror elements, but I've got to say, the concept, because I don't even want to give it away. I don't really want to tell you guys what this is about because it's better to go into this movie completely blind like I did. The concept of this movie, and as you start to see these like weird twists, reveals, it's so cool. And the ending is awesome. And I've got to say, it's a movie where, first of all, the score almost carries this film, and that's just complimenting the movie because I think the plot, the performances are really amazing. The score of this movie is one of the best I've ever heard. It's so uniquely stylized, and I've got to give a lot of credit to the composer, whoever put this together, because it's amazing. And like I said, I don't know who came up with this story, whoever wrote the script, but it is a very tightly written script, and I really can't I don't even know, just discuss this movie enough. This is another movie where I feel like I could really analyze this whole film because there's so much deep like lore and things to look into, and it gets all weird and wacky, but not necessarily in a way where like you need to watch like an ending explained video afterwards, because you do kind of understand what's going on. But yeah, guys, like I said, if you just really want to have your brain, kind of tinkered with and kind of maybe change the way you see the world a little bit, trust me, watch this movie. It's a really interesting mystery film. Go check it out. And my final recommendation for today, a movie that I hold very close to my heart that many of you have probably heard before, but as an Italian, I gotta recommend My Cousin Vinny. Listen, Joe Pesci, for the most part, I feel like is known as, oh yeah, that side character in Goodfellas. Obviously, I'm not disrespecting him. I'm just messing around. But this is him elevating up to the main role in a comedy film, and I've got to say, he absolutely takes it away. I love My Cousin Vinny so much. It is one of the funniest, most quotable movies of all time. Marissa Tomei is also in this as like the co-lead. She's awesome. She has her moments, and yeah, there's just a lot of really funny things in here because the whole point is, well, also Ralph Macchio's in here, the Karate Kid himself. Gotta throw that in there too. But the whole concept of this movie is that we have a New Yorker who's in Alabama, basically. And it's like a courtroom drama comedy. I've got to say, the story too, even though it is meant to be a comedy, because I know sometimes with comedies, it could lean too far into the comedy, and that means the story ends up just being kind of lackluster. The story actually is really intriguing here, even though it spends most of its runtime just joke after joke after joke. That's like all it is. I'm telling you, there's so many great moments in this film that'll have you absolutely laughing, and it has a really unique ending with like the way that, like I said, it's like a courtroom drama, with the way like the case going on here kind of finishes. I literally can't recommend this movie enough, but I pretty much said that about all these movies because that's the whole point of this video. All right, guys, with that being said, those are my 8 films that I recommend right now. See, I didn't want to talk about them too much because I don't want to give that much away. I just hope that I could kind of just maybe pique your interest with one of these. Maybe if I have like the trailer playing in the background, you just see some images that look kind of cool that maybe you like, and maybe you'll go check them out. If you do check any of these movies out, I would love to hear what you thought about them in the comments, or if you've already seen one of these movies, I'd love to hear your thoughts about them. If maybe you're like, oh my god, I also have like told my friend about that movie and how great it was. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.